It's the Friday edition of the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, here today with Jenna Harner from Channel 11 WPXI. We'll give you our outlook on the Steelers-Panthers game this weekend, as well as all of our Week 15 picks here as we're getting close to the end of the NFL season. It's going to be a fun episode. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find this show on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, and YouTube. If you're watching this video on YouTube, hit the like button in the video if you enjoy it. Hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel to get all of our daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making the Locked On Steelers podcast your first listen every day. As I said before, we're joined by Jenna Harner, our normal guest that we love to have on the Friday episodes because she lights it up so much. Jenna, how you doing today?
That was like the greatest intro, Chris. Thank you for being so kind. I feel so honored. I love it. We're here on a Friday. We're thriving. I can't believe there's 4 games left in the regular season. How is this possible?
That's a good question. How is this possible? It feels like we were just sweating it out in St. Vincent College, always running all over the place. And here we are. It's December and the holidays are coming. But as the Steelers are getting ready, Let's take a step before we get into some things about this game specifically. A quick update on the quarterback situation. Mason Rudolph is talking like he could be the starter this weekend if Kenny Pickett doesn't return. However, Kenny Pickett has been practicing individually in these upcoming practices. He was limited on Wednesday. And now we're kind of looking at a situation where, maybe he does come back. But if he doesn't, Mason Rudolph could be the starter. Jenna, we saw a little bit of confidence in him, and Diontae Johnson comes out and says that quote unquote, he'd like to see Mason Rudolph start. What has been your outlook on how that has processed, especially with Mitch Trubisky last week throwing 3 interceptions?
Yeah, it's really intriguing kind of how it's all shaking out because obviously with Kenny Pickett in the concussion protocol, there's so many things that has to happen, so many things to monitor and keep an eye on for him to play. We don't entirely know the status, of course, as the time that we're recording this. So that's something to absolutely kind of watch and see if he is able to practice with the team and he's able to get in drills. Where does he fall in the ranking? Does he go with the 1s? Does he go with the 2s? How does that kind of work for Kenny Pickett? Do they expect him to play? Do they not? Mike Tomlin saying, they just kind of have to, everything's day by day. And that's really how he said he's taking this whole week is a day by day approach with all 3 of the quarterbacks. Now, obviously, with Mitch's performance, Mike Tomlin also talked about towing the line in terms of being overly aggressive and what we saw from Trubisky with the 3 interceptions. But it's weird for me because the Steelers know what they have in Mason Rudolph. And with the way that he was talking, one of the first questions he was asked earlier this week was just, Tomlin referring to Trubisky and Rudolph as like a 2 and a 2A type of situation. Mason being as honest as he was saying, well, I feel like I haven't dressed. I feel like I've been inactive, which is understandable for what he's been doing this season. But the Steelers know what they have in him. So that's something that they're going to have to keep weighing. But we saw both of the quarterbacks, Trubisky and Rudolph, take, split reps with the first team earlier this week. They told us that too as well. So it's going to be intriguing. But at least the read that I'm gathering, at least from what we kind of heard a little bit today, is that with what Matt Canada was saying, it does seem a little bit like if Kenny can't go, they're just making sure both guys in Trubisky and Rudolph are as prepared as possible because they don't want a situation like last week to happen where Kenny Pickett, a couple plays into the game gets hurt and then they have to put in their backup. So it'll be intriguing to kind of see how it all shakes out. And I honestly don't have a really good grasp on what's going to happen because I think they're waiting just to see, again, with Kenny Pickett, if Kenny Pickett does clear the protocol and can play, of course, it's going to be his game. But if not, I don't know. I feel like, we saw a different Mitch Trubisky even on Sunday compared to what we saw from him earlier in the season too. So I think there's a lot of factors that, people way above our pay grade get to make. And I'm glad I don't have to make those decisions. But I do think that, maybe you do give Mason Rudolph a little bit of an opportunity. He's been a starter in this league when Ben Roethlisberger went down a couple seasons ago. And he's, proven that he can help a team at least stay competitive. So I'll be intrigued to kind of see how everything shakes out, in the next couple of days here.
Yes, certainly. And I also wanted to touch on one thing we've heard a lot about this Panthers unit that's kind of finding its stride with Wilkes now as their head coach, Matt Rule being gone. They've relied a lot on what they've called the Arby's offense. And it's not their entire offense, but it's because they love the meats and they have the meats because they just load up their offense, extra offensive linemen, all three tight ends, and their running back, and they've been able to move the ball on people. And of course, that's alarming for the Pittsburgh Steelers because they've been struggling to stuff the run. They went from being a top 10 unit to, back to the middle of the pack in the NFL when it comes to stuffing the run. And in fact, they've allowed over 100 yards in 3 straight games to opponents. Granted, they won the first 2 contests when they allowed 110 to the Colts, 146 to the Falcons, but the Ravens ran it for 215. Now, I will say this. The Carolina Panthers are not a premier rushing offense. They're a little bit above the Steelers in that they rush for 124.9 yards per game, but this is also a team that's finding itself recently. They've been able to win 3 of their last 4, and in those efforts, they've had 2 performances go for over 200 yards on the ground. Jenna, is this something that you see the Steelers could counter, and this could be a week where they stand up to it, or is this going to be another week where we're watching Cam Heyward, TJ Watt, and that group kind of pushed off the ball, and the Steelers giving up a lot of yards on the ground?
I think it's just going to come down to the physicality in the trenches. I mean, that is exactly what we heard in the locker room following last week's loss to the Ravens from guys like Cam Heyward, guys like Alex Highsmith, the defense in general, just saying we knew what they were going to do and we couldn't stop it. Mike Tomlin talking about how it's, the attrition as the game ran on, they knew what the Ravens were going to do and they did it. I expect a lot of the same here from the Carolina Panthers because of the fact that they've had so much inconsistency this season in terms of their quarterback position. They've had obviously Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, PJ Fleck, back to Sam Darnold. It's been so up and down, but the one consistent thing from this Panthers team that Mike Tomlin highlighted earlier this week on Tuesday was that they found consistency in their game, in the run game. And just last week, they ran, I think it was like 238 yards. Yep. So that's going to be something, obviously, we know the Steelers are going to hone in on. And this is one of those things where when they were struggling with the run last year, I remember a lot of the guys saying, I think it was almost, I want to say it was Devin Bush saying, they're going to run the ball against us because they know they can, and we have to prove that we can stop it. And until we do that, teams are going to continue to do that against us. And I think if you're the Carolina Panthers game planning for this game, you roll back and watch the tape. As soon as the Ravens' third string quarterback comes in, everyone knew what they were going to do. And yet the Steelers were still unable to stop it. I think having a little bit of, last week we got punched in the face, punched in the mouth type thing, that carries over into this week. And those guys don't want it to happen for 2 straight weeks. But there have been, like you mentioned, some alarming trends where I feel like the last couple weeks, the Colts game, yes, they ran for over 100 yards, but I think there was some bright spots because of the way they were able to limit Jonathan Taylor and the way were able to stay in that game. But then even go back the week before to the Bengals, they weren't able to stop P-Ryan. So it's a lot of those. You're seeing things that are showing up. And a lot of the guys, when we had talked with them after the game, said, we have to go back and look and just see. And Cam Heyward was saying, it was me. I'm doing too much. And some of the other guys, too, we feel like we need to do a little more. We can't do too much. But it is alarming. And that is going to be my biggest area of focus in this game is if the Steelers defense can limit the run the way they limited the Colts, I think this game is competitive. I think they're in it. But Carolina runs the ball, wins those battles in the trenches up front, they're able to push guys and get, 3, 4, 5 yards a carry. That's a big problem there. And until the Steelers can prove that they can stop it, I don't entirely feel confident in that run defense.
Yeah, I certainly think it's going to be a big question. And Teryl Austin, Steelers defensive coordinator, even kind of backed up what Cam Heyward said. He's like, it's not scheme. It's not quite. You got to get off blocks. You got to be able to beat guys at the line of scrimmage. And if they don't do that, it's going to be a long day for the Steelers. I think another part of this, though, will be making sure that defensive unit can kind of put more pressure on the offense to throw the ball. Because if you look at what was the formula for the 2 of the last 3 games where the Steelers have played, and the run defense has struggled in each of those games at times. The difference in the first 2 games is that they were protecting leads against the Colts and the Falcons. Yep. And in the Ravens, they were playing from behind. So the Ravens could afford to run the ball. Whereas you saw the Falcons last drive of the game, they couldn't run the ball. Marcus Mariota, he had to throw it, and he got intercepted by Minkah Fitzpatrick. You forced the Colts to be in a tough situation as well. That's what you have to do to this team against the Carolina Panthers. Sam Darnold's your quarterback. Who cares? You got to make sure that he's beating you with his arm, and he's going to have the best day of his life if he's going to beat you. I think that's the key. We'll get more on this matchup in just a minute, but don't go anywhere because we're going to break down our predictions on all the matchups this Sunday. It's a wild weekend of picks coming up here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. But first, we got to talk to you guys about Tommy John, because this episode is brought to you by Tommy John. Don't make your loved ones face the dead of winter in old T-shirts, ancient underwear, and ratty sweats. Help them fight the cold with cozy give the gift of Tommy John. You can shop Tommy John's Wrap It Up sale right now and give the gift of comfort to everyone on your list, including yourself. With new Tommy John underwear, loungewear, and pajamas. With over 18 million pairs sold, giving Tommy John has become a holiday tradition. 97% of women and men love getting a gift from Tommy John. That's why Tommy John doesn't have customers, they have fanatics. I love my Tommy John sweatpants that are extremely cozy and look nice when I'm wearing them and when I'm around, when I'm chilling at home. And hurry to Tommy John's Wrap It Up sale right now. You get 30% off everything plus free shipping at TommyJohn.com/lockedon. It's TommyJohn.com/lockedon. Order now so your gifts arrive before the holidays. And again, that's 30% off plus free shipping at TommyJohn.com/lockedon. TommyJohn.com/lockedon. See site for details. Back here in the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter, here with our Friday episode. Our guest, as always, Jenna Hunter. Jenna, I hate you because you keep putting distance between us in our picks, and it's getting on my nerves. I need you to stop winning so much. It's
How
tiresome.
many games in my head right now?
5. I hate you. 5.
Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4.
5. I have 120 wins on the season. She has 125. It is ridiculous. Jenna is currently in 21st place in our Locked On Steelers Pick'em League. It's over 240 participants. Our top people, though, right now, we have 2 people tied at 3rd place for the Gridiron Men and Grand Ticker's picks. I guess that's what that is there. We have Jay Keister. He's in 2nd place with 132. We also have the Yapping Yinzer way out in 1st with 136 wins. Yapping Yinzer's been at the top thanks to everyone who plays our Pick'em League with us every week. But now it's time to get to our picks. Let's start with our Sunday picks. As always, we skip our Thursday night game. Colts at Vikings. The Colts, they've been upstarts at times, but the Vikings did get upset last week, and you picked that game. That was one of the games that got you up on me. But I'm going with the Vikings. They're not losing twice to teams like this.
Yeah, no, and I think the Lions obviously are a much different team than the Colts, but yeah, the Vikings are a more complete team. They're a better team, especially offensively. Justin Jefferson's in the MVP conversation. Vikings should win this game.
The Ravens at 9-4 visit the 5-8 Browns. It's an interesting matchup because the Ravens have their quarterback situation. They've been dealing with injuries. And the Browns, they haven't been playing well, even with Deshaun Watson back. I'm going with the Browns at home. I think the Ravens have been struggling enough offensively. I know the Browns are struggling as well, but I think the Browns defense does enough to cause the Ravens problems in this game that they get a win at home and the Ravens drop a game. Jenna, you look like you're pondering here. Are you picking the Ravens here?
I am. This is such an intriguing game to me. And right before we started recording this, Tyler Huntley was cleared from the concussion protocol. And John Harbaugh didn't entirely name him the starter, but basically he's good to go. I think, again, the Ravens, you can run the ball. If you run the ball, they will find success. But it's so back and forth. I'm not entirely sure. I like the Ravens only because I think they can do more. I like the matchup with the Browns defense, but I'm going with Baltimore.
I hear that. The 8-5 Dolphins visit the 10-3 Bills. The Dolphins pulled up one of the upsets of the year when they beat the Bills last time, but that was in Miami when the Bills were cramping up from the heat and dealing with some issues. The Bills are in Buffalo this time. This is a Saturday night game. I think it's going to be a real fun one. Jenna, I'm going with Buffalo at home. I think that they've been waiting a long time for this rematch.
Chris, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell everybody I know on Twitter to please go look at Bills Dolphins Twitter in regards to the weather, because this game is supposed to be frigid. It's supposed to be snowy. We're seeing images come out of Bills practice with guys in winter parkas and then their jerseys over their parkas. It is magical. It's also hilarious. Everyone talking about everyone's a football expert and a cold weather expert and playing football in the snow expert. I'm going with Buffalo just because this, to me, is that home field advantage for the Bills. This game is a huge impact on the AFC standings and the AFC East standings as well, of course. I'm going with Buffalo in this one. I think that they handled elements better than the Dolphins do, and they win this game.
I agree there. Eagles at Bears. I mean, come on. This is no. I'm just picking the Eagles. We don't got to break this down. The Eagles are walking over these guys. Yeah.
Philly, no doubt.
We can do the same thing here. The Chiefs at the Texans. We're just going Chiefs. We're not explaining our logic here. But no. I will say we do have to do that with this next one. Cowboys at Jaguars. The Cowboys almost got upset by the Texans last week, and now they face a Jaguars team that, with Trevor Lawrence, has been looking better this year. They're at 5-8. I'm sticking with the Cowboys, but I wouldn't be surprised if Trevor Lawrence makes this a good back and forth with Dak Prescott.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking it's going to be. I just don't have enough confidence in the Jags in terms of their consistency. We've seen lots of really good things, aka last week and a couple weeks ago, but then you kind of see them ride that roller coaster a little bit. So I'm going with the Cowboys in this, but I do think Jacksonville makes it intriguing and keeps it closer than people think.
Absolutely. Jenna, let's keep it rolling here with more picks on a long Sunday or a long weekend because we got all the teams playing finally with all the bye weeks out. NFC South showdown, 5-8 Falcons at 4-9 Saints. Desmond Ridder set to go in for the Falcons for his first start. But that kind of makes me want to go with the Saints. Rookie quarterback. I know the Falcons can run the ball a bit, but I think the Saints do just enough to win at home here.
Yeah, that's exactly my qualification with this game, too, is that Desmond Ridder is getting his first NFL start. He might light it up. He might be fantastic. He might have a great day, but I just don't entirely feel confident in picking a team with a rookie quarterback making his first start, especially against the Saints defense that can keep their offense in games as well. So I'm going with the Saints in this one, but I don't think this is going to be a pretty game by any means.
I agree entirely. Lions at Jets. This is very intriguing because both of these teams are heading in different directions. Jets started off red hot, falling off. Lions started off ice cold, picking up the heat with their upset over the Vikings last week. I'm going with Detroit. They've sold me. I think they're going to get a win, and the Jets they're going to fall back. Mike White's been doing a good job filling in as a backup quarterback, but we're seeing that offense. And Jameson Williams, he's in there. He's able to make some plays. I think Jared Goff's got him going. The run game is still a factor for the Lions. They're playing better football. I'm going with Detroit.
I'm going with the Lions, too. They're in the playoff conversation. Nobody, I don't think, had them at that point to start the season. So, yeah, I'm going with the Lions. Mike White, especially after last week against the Bills, watching that hit from Matt Milano where he, almost was launched into the Matrix when he went back like that. Please use that as the graphic for this show, Chris. That hurt my soul, even just thinking about it. So he's obviously going to play, but he's definitely a little bit banged up from that. I think the Lions are to me, they're on a bit of a hot streak right now, and they're going to keep things rolling.
No, absolutely. The Lions actually just a half game, I believe, out of. No, it's weird because I think the Giants, they've tied it, and so have the Commanders, but they're at 6-7. So I think they're a game and a half behind those guys, but they're chasing. They're still competing. It's the NFC East, man. They're so packed up right now with all the teams that they've got playing this weekend. We'll get to one of those games coming up. Broncos are hosting the Cardinals. Cardinals, of course, lost Kyler Murray. Colt McCoy is going to be starting. The Broncos still stink. But we've seen some uptick in some play there. Russell Wilson did throw 3 touchdown passes, all to Jerry Jeudy. Is this enough for you to pick them, though? Because I'm going with them. They're at home. The Cardinals, it's been a rough season for them as well. I think Russell Wilson finding a connection with Jerry Jeudy will be enough to kind of get them over the hump in this game. Plus, the Cardinals, I think that they've packed it in as well. They don't have much else to look for this year with Kyler Murray being out.
I'm going the opposite. It's Colt McCoy season. I don't know why. This game
season,
is probably, exactly. Those words come out of my mouth and I lose confidence immediately. I don't feel confident in either of these teams. I'm just going with Arizona because, it's a toss up for me. I don't think the Broncos offense has been anything great. I know what you were saying with Russell Wilson and Jerry Jeudy connecting lately. Broncos defense does give me a little bit of hope, but I think Colt McCoy is going to go out and just light things up and just have himself a day. We're going a little crazy today. Why not?
Hey, why not? Colt McCoy. Because that's if he pulls it off, it'll be another reason why you're so far up on me on these pick'em standings here, Jenna. Let's go to Patriots Raiders. Patriots 7-6, Raiders 5-8. Neither of these teams looking good, but man, the Raiders laid a duck on Thursday Night Football with giving up the points to Baker Mayfield. That's why I'm going with the Patriots. Even if the Patriots with Mac Jones, even if he stinks and they let it down, I think they have enough on defense to kind of keep the Raiders in check and not allow this game to break open. And if this is close, Bill Belichick and that team will find a way to win it.
I think so too. I just, this is another one that to me, I'm like, it could kind of be either way, but I just think you look at coaching, it's Bill Belichick, it's the Patriots. They want to keep themselves alive because I believe they're in that 7th and final playoff spot right now in the AFC. They want to keep their dreams of a postseason alive. I think they're trending in the right direction, whereas the Jets are kind of going a little bit south. So I'm going, yes, it's on the road. I'm just going with the Patriots strictly because they have Bill Belichick.
Absolutely. I hear you there. We got Titans Chargers. This is an interesting matchup because both teams are 7-6, and both teams need to win this game to make sure that they're in the playoff race right now. At 7-6, the Titans lead the AFC South to the current 4 seed. The Chargers, because of tiebreakers, are just outside of the playoffs, tied with the Patriots at 7-6. I'm going with the Chargers, though. I think that they've been playing a little bit better football. They're starting to find themselves, and the Titans defense can't seem to stop a nosebleed. They've given up 35-plus points in back-to-back weeks. I think Justin Herbert has a field day with that defense, and Derrick Henry doesn't do enough to keep up. What say you, though?
I think the Chargers, to me, are one of the teams in the AFC that's really peaking at the right time or trending in a positive direction at the right time. Their Sunday Night Football performance against the Dolphins really, I don't want to say entirely surprised me, but just the way that game played out, I thought that they demonstrated why they're playing really good football right now. And I think that continues this week. The Titans to me have been up and down this year. There's moments where they look really good and Derrick Henry's running the ball. And there's moments where they can't seem to find any open gaps and Henry gets like 28 yards a week. So I'm going with the Chargers in this one. I think Justin Herbert has a field day. That's where I'm going with this. See, I'm just thinking one step ahead. Justin Herbert has himself an afternoon against the Titans defense that cannot seem, like you said, to stop a nosebleed.
The Bengals at the Buccaneers. Bengals playing. If there's a team that's peaking right now, it's the Bengals. And if there's a team that's not peaking, it's the Buccaneers. I'm going with Cincinnati. I think that they light up a Buccaneers defense that has been playing well, and Tom Brady can't seem to do nearly enough with his offense.
Yeah, no, the Bucs, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on with them. I don't know what's going on with Tom Brady, and Joe Burrow and the Bengals are playing some really solid football right now. They're kind of coming into form as I think, hold me to this one, but I think that they're going to be the ones that eventually win the AFC North. But I just don't think the Bucs are going to be anything. This is going to be a really, really solid afternoon for Joe Burrow.
Giants at Commanders, 7-5-1. At 7-5-1, your New York Football Giants, Jenna. Do you have the courage, the conviction to pick your boy? Dang, she's just shaking her head. She's not even giving them a chance. Why can't you pick your boys, Jenna?
Because I don't. This is the Giants. The last 6 weeks have looked more like the Giants that I'm used to at this point. And it's so wild to me because these two teams played 2 weeks ago. Washington played the Giants. They tied. Washington had their bye, and they're coming out and they're playing them again. That enough gives me reason to pick the Commanders. But yeah, this game is going to be close. It's Sunday Night Football, which I'm kind of pumped about because I'll actually get to watch them. But also it's I don't know if I want to because they're going to make me sad. So I'm picking the Commanders because I'm going to take the fact that I'll be a little bummed out anyways. The Christmas ornament is moving slower and slower towards the back of the tree. It's on the side right now. You can still see it a little bit. If they win, I'll be surprised, but I just don't think it's happening.
The Giants started 6-1. They are 0-3-1 in their last 4. It has been a depressing fall for them. They lose this game. I'm following your lead. I'm picking the Commanders because these are your boys and you know them. Plus, I do like Terry McLaurin in that group. But man, that's a tough drop from the hot start that they had. But finally, Monday Night Football, the 4-9 Rams at the 5-8 Packers. It's Baker Mayfield versus Aaron Rodgers. What happened? How did Baker Mayfield get here? And now he was NFC Offensive Player of the Week and everything. And I was just what? I know the Rams are feeling really good after that win over the Raiders, and I know the Packers have been a bad team this year, but I'm still picking the Packers. They can't lose this game, right, Jenna?
That's exactly what I'm thinking too. I think they're favored by like 7 in this one. Also, the weather forecast looks like it's going to be absolutely frigid in Green Bay. I'm like ready for Monday night, like bitterly cold football. I'm going with the Packers in this one. I think that they've done enough to at least kind of make you be like, all right, they're still staying competitive in games. And again, Baker Mayfield looked really good Thursday night. Is he going to look the same as things continue? We'll see.
We will see. But don't forget, we did pass over the Steelers-Panthers game, not unintentionally, but we're talking about it in the final segment. Our breakdowns, X factors, and final prediction of Steelers-Panthers right here on the Locked On Steelers in just a minute as we break that down. But first, we got to talk to you guys about Total Wine and More, because this holiday season, you can find what you love at Total Wine and More. With so many great bottles to choose from, it's easy to find a new favorite Cabernet or Chardonnay or the perfect gifts for everyone on your list, with some help from a friendly guide and all the confidence of knowing you found something special for the lowest price. Love what you find only at Total Wine and More. Curbside pickup and delivery available in most areas. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Drink responsibly. Be 21. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter, here with Jenna Harner of Channel 11 WPXI. Jenna, it's time to talk Steelers-Panthers one last time here, getting a look at this game. The Steelers, we still, like you said, we still don't know. I will do an update for those who are interested. We will be doing an update on the Steelers quarterback situation. If Kenny Pickett does return, there will be a quick Locked On Now update about that on this channel. So do be on the lookout for that. We will have that here for you as soon as we can. But even if there's not, I do think a big factor in this game is the Steelers do have to possess the football. They possessed it a little bit last time, but they also turned the ball over. If they could maintain the pace of being able to get first downs. I mean, you look at last week, Jenna, you and I, we were talking about this in the tunnel. When you go back and you look at that game against the Ravens, and you see what the Steelers were doing, they were 50% on third downs. They were able to kind of keep drives alive. They only lost time of possession by about like 4 or 5 minutes. It wasn't terrible at that, but the key was the turnovers. And if I'm the Steelers, that's my big emphasis this week is, yes, do move the football, but don't turn the ball over. And I think that one key factor is in this game is that the Panthers don't have the Ravens run defense that's going to be plugging up holes and causing the Steelers with too much problems. In fact, the Panthers run defense right now ranks right in the middle of the league, well, actually on the back of the league in yards. They're 24th in yards allowed, 24th in yards per attempt. This, I think, is the chance for, even if Mason Rudolph or Mitch Trubisky is starting, for the Steelers to maintain that balanced offensive look and let the defense keep them in check. And if they get that early lead, that's their key to a win.
That's exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. If the offense can get out to a lead and maintain it, and like you and I talked about earlier in the show, if you're forcing Carolina to throw the football, if you do not allow them to get into their run game, a weakness of the Steelers defense right now, stopping the run, then all of a sudden you turn the script on this entire game. I think that's what it's going to come down to for me, is whoever's under center for the Steelers on Sunday, if they can get the team out to a lead. And it's not going to be anything crazy, but if you can, again, you can be ahead by a touchdown, you can be ahead by, 10 points, and force the Panthers to actually throw the ball and force Sam Darnold to make mistakes we've seen him make throughout his career up to this point, then the Steelers will win the game. But if they, go 3 and out and kind of trade some chances here, and the Panthers even get up by a touchdown and they say, hey, we're going to run the football, then I think the Steelers, particularly the Steelers defense, are going to be in for a long day. And that's what it's going to come down to for me.
I agree with you. All right, Jenna, it's that time. Give us your prediction. Who wins? What's the X factor? What's the turning point that you see leading to your final score prediction here?
All righty, Steelers fans, please don't come for me. But I just
she hit us with the all righty. She hit us with the all righty. When she says all righty, it's not good, Steelers fans.
I know. I'm sorry. Especially after what we saw last week with the Ravens run game, I don't have faith right now in the Steelers' run defense. And until they prove things differently, I'm going with Carolina. I think the Panthers win this game 24-20. It's obviously going to depend on who plays quarterback for the Steelers this week, but I just think that Carolina is going to get out to a little bit of a lead, and they're just going to be able to hold on to it by running the football. If the Steelers defense comes out and gets out to a lead and can stop the run, I will eat my words. I will take back everything I said. But right now, based on what we've seen, especially the last 2 weeks, the Steelers' run defense is a huge problem in terms of stopping things. And I just don't have a lot of confidence with what we've seen. And again, even going back to the last, 3 of the last 4, yes, they were able to stop the Colts, but they also had a lead in that game. And I know there's a lot of factors that go into everything. So I think the Panthers win 24-20. I think the key is obviously going to be stopping the run. And I think the turning point is going to be if the Panthers take a lead, they're just going to be able to hold on to the ball and possess it more. But there could be an interception. If the Steelers jump out to an early lead, I very likely think that we could see, Minka Fitzpatrick pick off a ball. One of the corners in the secondary really kind of get their hands on something, spark things, and get things going. Because when the Ravens had to throw the football, we saw some of that from Tyler Huntley. But if you let if you let the Panthers run, it's going to be a long afternoon in Carolina.
I agree entirely. Sam Darnold, 2-0 and it starts this year, undefeated. Does that doom the Steelers to losing this game? I say nay. I say the Steelers do find a way to get that early lead, particularly because I do think that there's a bit of pride on the line for some of these guys, especially for guys like Cam Heyward. They look at the tape. They don't want to get bullied again. I also think the Panthers offense, even with the Arby's package and the fun that people have to talk about that, they're not the Ravens rushing offense. The Ravens have beefed up on both sides of the line of scrimmage. That's what I think overpowered the Steelers. I don't think a similar advantage exists for the Panthers in this game. Granted, this is on the road. I think the Steelers find a way to win. It will be close. It will be tight. But like we've been saying, I think they do get the early lead, not by a whole lot, but they end up winning 17-13 in a low-scoring affair. I think that this is going to be an interesting one down the way. I'll also be interested because if Kenny Pickett plays, I think it might be more like 24-13. But if it's Mason Rudolph or Mitch Trubisky, I think they keep it a very slow pace. Steelers possess the football, and they make enough plays to win the game there. But there you have it. There's our prediction. Jenna goes Panthers. I go Steelers. We'll see how this plays out on Sunday. Jenna, thanks as always for joining us here on the Friday edition of Locked On Steelers. Let me know where you can find you, follow you, and get more of your work.
Well, thank you as always for having me. It's one of my favorite parts of the way to end the week. You can find me on Twitter at Jenna Harner11, Instagram Jenna_Harner, and on WPXI Channel 11 here in Pittsburgh locally. Definitely stay tuned in the next couple weeks here, obviously with the Immaculate Reception, the 50th anniversary coming up next week, and the tragic 50th anniversary of Roberto Clemente's death. We have a lot of really incredible stories that we're telling here on Channel 11, so keep tuned for both of those, both in your local programming and on social media, because there's some really, really awesome pieces I'm excited to share with everybody.
Absolutely. Do check all the great work that they do at Channel 11 WPXI here in Pittsburgh. I'm Chris Carter, host of the Locked On Steelers podcast. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. You can find this show, the Locked On Steelers podcast, on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, and YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get all of our daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. And we've got some special bonus content coming out for you this Friday afternoon. We got a special visitor, Alan Faneca, came on the show. We talked with him about things that he's working on now, but also what helped turn around the Steelers offense when he was a young player on the Steelers roster, and what he sees in the Steelers offense now that encourages him to think that they can turn it around. It'll be a fun bonus episode. Check it out Friday here on all of our platforms here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Again, I'm Chris Carter. Thanks again for checking us out. I'll be back with that bonus episode. And then, of course, post-game coverage of Steelers Panthers. We'll see you there.